Yes.
Thank you for being here.
Of course, yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah. So what I want to do is share with you this map of how to solve climate change.
Okay.
How to really solve climate change. And the first part of it, so here's the climate crisis that we're in, and I'll give you the overview. And I'm saying that society is stuck. We're stuck. We can't move. We can't actually solve it. This is an impossible to solve problem because we're stuck. Largely because of our system. That we are in the box system. So there's the triangle system.
Yeah.
The box system and the circle system are possibilities.
Okay.
We are in the box system, which is really came out of the Enlightenment. It's the whole idea is that this is before the Enlightenment was a hierarchy where the church was in charge or the king was in charge, the hierarchy, and there was an elite system, and you believed you were loyal to the king. You were loyal. You believed that regardless. There was no science.
Right.
We didn't count science, and this is kind of what I think is trying to happen today because the box isn't working in what we call democracy. So we're starting to have the authoritarian leaders come back. But and they're undermining. It makes no sense to them that we follow science. What about the gut hunch of our leader?
Yeah, gotcha.
And then so we follow that, and that's kind of there's a number of people have kind of adopted, I think, this hierarchical mentality already when it was so hard to get to the democracy or what we call democracy that really arose out of the Enlightenment and then the Constitutional Convention, where they designed a system that is based really on competition. It's the rules of the game. And then you play the game.
Right.
And win.
Yeah.
And people think it's... So each of these systems sets up human nature in a way, and the next system we'll talk about, because that is really the core to the solution. Is if you and I have a way to flip the system from the box to the circle, that transmits, and all of a sudden the box system is causing climate change. It's limiting our solutions. This is a map of the solutions that are out there, the box solutions.
Okay.
They really can't work.
Right.
I mean, in other words, it really seems impossible at the end. We get excited about, oh my gosh, we're developing new technologies and so forth, but when we look at them, they realize they really aren't enough.
Interesting.
Or they can't get implemented.
Right.
Or we can't pass, we can't direct our public wealth and attention to implementing those strategies because the system really has, the oil industry, for instance, has all this money invested in the ground. They need to get their money out.
Yeah.
And so they're advertising and making sure that we all think that's the way to go. When if we were all focused on the public interest, we would slap our head and say, of course we don't want to do that. So anyway, the box system is set up to be a competition of special interests.
Yes.
And there is no public interest. There is no.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
It's just the special interests competing, and then we say, oh, well, then that will generate the best.
Got it.
So anyway, this is the causes, and the causes of climate change, when people talk about it, they start thinking, these are different levels.
Yeah.
They think greenhouse gases, okay? That's one level. And then the next level is like capitalism. Well, gee, the reason why we're creating these greenhouse gases is because of the way we've structured our system and the oil industry and stuff. And then other people go another level and say, well, it's just human nature. See, the greed and the self-interest and so forth.
Sure.
And what I'm saying is that it's really
the system.
So the box system is the causes. It's limiting our possible solutions. And I have a way to talk about the map of our solutions. And it's providing blocks. so that these solutions, which are fantastic, can't really quite come into being.
Right. Yeah.
And then what's happening to the people is a traumatic response, really, of just denial or depression and anxiety, or hey, we give up, post-doom, we're gonna have to just adapt.
Right,
and be creative in adapting.
Right.
And give up on actually solving the problem.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the overview, and we're stuck in this mentality thinking that it's impossible. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know how much, the box solutions, the solutions that are inside this system. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. We want to get a solution outside of the system. We want to transform the system. Yeah,
solutions are stuck.
To a whole different zone.
Got it.
And it's possible. So we need a breakthrough that's accessible. It's all inclusive, includes all the people in the world. That's proven. That's fast acting. That sparks international consensus. Mm-hmm. That addresses the root causes, the capitalism, all that stuff, that demonstrates collective wisdom, that is effective in terms of ending this struggle, that brings us all together, that flips the system, and that is stepwise, meaning each step of the process, we want it to be of benefit to society. We don't want... it's not that hard. So this is the kind of breakthrough we need. And this is where we are with our solutions. And I'll just go through these quickly.
Sure, go.
Okay. So one thing is, a lot of times this is the people and the individual, the actions as individual, what you can do as an individual, and this is what we need to do collectively. And the people, there's a lot of energy around transforming myself. If I can just adopt a new paradigm and be a model for other people, and that would be maybe reach a critical mass, something like that. And then there's education, so everybody becomes aware of the problem and aware of its urgency. And we need to change the paradigm so that we adopt the new paradigm of, rather than being separate from planet Earth, that we're interbeing with planet Earth, and we're connected to all the species, and there's all, and this is the individual actions. What can we do? I need to go do earth repair and be out there involved in stuff like that. Eating local. There's all kinds of things I can do. Taking less showers and driving less, and whatever my consumption. And we have to invent and adapt and use new technologies. And this is very exciting to, like Al Gore kind of puts his weight and interest right there. And that thing that there's all these wonderful new technologies for batteries and solar panels and so forth. And then we have to model the new system with local co-ops and land trusts and all these different economic systems that could we need to set in motion, and we need to get for collective actions.
Sure.
We got to get political. We got to go demonstrate in the streets. We got to vote. We got to support our candidates, run for office, that kind of thing. And then there's collective actions. If we could change the culture somehow, like change the story of what we tell out there, or or then there's a number of group people also trying to improve governance, to make governance more deliberative democracy, and are getting rid of corruption, things like that. But that's the map of the normal solutions, and there may be more, I'm not sure, but seems like it kind of covers the space.
It does, it covers the spectrum.
The spectrum.
Yeah, it does, absolutely.
Okay.
It feels hopeless.
Good, because that's what I think. No, I'm serious.
No, it is.
When we're in the box, it is hopeless.
It feels hopeless.
As long as we're stuck in the box, we can't do it. And a good example of that, I think, is the tragedy of the commons is the block for the global situation. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Okay,
What is this tragedy of the
The
commons?
idea is that when we share a common resource, whether it's green grass on the commons and we are farmers that are ranchers that want to put our sheep out on the commons,
Okay.
that's kind of where this came from.
Oh, okay.
Or whether we're just people on planet Earth and we're sucking up from the fresh water in the thing, and or putting our pollutants into the air, or shooting extinct species, or developing properties that eliminate soils. I mean, we're destroying the commons.
Got it.
And the commons can't, at some point, when it replenishes, the commons usually can replenish itself. But if we start drawing it down faster than it can replenish itself, then we're stuck in a new mode. We're now interdependent, because we're all dependent on the commons.
Yeah.
Before we were independent, now we're interdependent.
Yeah.
And each one of us, if we're not talking to one another, the only thing we can do is either draw down the commons or withhold. And whatever we choose is a lose-lose in that situation, because drawing down we're just, if I withhold, everybody else keeps consuming.
Right. Right.
And
and you're left out.
It requires all of us to be in conversation, all of us to be talking, all of us to choose together. And yet we have no mechanism for that in the global setting. We have all these, we have a competition is what's
We have the
been set up.
UN.
Well, they have no power.
Oh.
They have no power. They write papers, great papers.
Yeah. But no power.
No power. So there's no sense, and even if they had power, we can't, like we do in the US, we can't get the political machinery to act in the public will anyway, because...
So with all these summits and conferences about global treaties...
Yeah, no, they don't actually, they're all voluntary, and nobody meets their agreed to goals anyway.
So when we pulled out of Paris,
Yeah.
the current administration pulled out of Paris.
Yeah. But even in Paris, it wasn't gonna.
It wasn't gonna work anyway.
It wasn't gonna work anyway.
Okay, because
it wasn't enough.
It's
just,
not enough.
You can't. There isn't the political leverage to get this to act. There's no really global governance that can manage the commons.
Okay.
And even in the U.S., see, we have the national governance, but it doesn't have the political will to manage the commons. So it's just the box. I'm telling you, the core box system failing is we don't have a way to really manage the tragedy of the commons through the box system. It's just, I mean, it could work if we had the political will and we had a global governance, but each nation doesn't want to give up its power so that there would be global governance of the kind that people think of.
Okay.
Just like the states in the U.S. didn't want to give up their power when they formed it. So, and there's no, I say there's no we is what I'm saying is the block, but the thing is, all of these people say we need to.
Yes.
We need to.
Yeah, we need to.
Develop these technologies. We need to use these technologies. We need to change the laws. We need to vote. There's all these we need tos. There is no we. If there was a we, then maybe we could do those things, but there isn't any
So the we have become they.
Well, there's a competition of special interests. So yes, and of course, what used to be the Constitution in power, there's actually a we the corporations in power.
Right.
That's kind of, in the U.S. anyway, that's kind of, and internationally too. So these, our solutions are blocked, the thinking is limited too, because we're in this, we can't think outside the box, because our thinking is about decision making. Decision making. D means away, decision means cut. It's all use in judgment. We do dialogue, we do all these wonderful things, but then it really boils down to decision making. And that their box system is a system of decision making out of the Enlightenment. The idea is we're trying to be rational, we're trying to push aside our emotions, we're trying to cut away, trying to be deliberate. We don't do those things, but that's what the goal was. And even if we could do those things, it isn't enough to deal with this problem.
Yeah.
So you're right. We get depressed and anxiety.
Yeah.
We get denial. We're in denial about the problems, and we're trying to adapt, and we're stuck.
Yeah.
We're stuck.
Yeah. Okay.
So we need a breakthrough.
Yes.
And in one of the elements of the breakthrough is to shift this system, the whole system, to a new economics and a new governance circle system. Okay, so that's what
Okay, you're going to unveil.
I'm going to unveil how that happened. Or how
Take
that
the
could
kitchen
happen.
towel and you're going to unveil
take
it.
My kitchen, take my kitchen towel and unveil it. Or it's actually a bathroom towel, but okay. Okay, so, and I tell you what the breakthrough needs to meet all these criteria, and we're calling it society's breakthrough.
Okay, so the breakthrough needs to be accessible, it needs to include others, it needs to be actionable, it needs to be...
We really want it proven.
Proven. Oh, so you need a proof of concept.
Yes. It's got to address the root causes, deal with the capitalism.
Okay.
It's got to demonstrate collective, that's what we're after, collective wisdom. We can't, see, we're on automatic pilot with this. This system is the rules of the game, and the corporations and the people and everybody are supposed to just play the game. It assumes self-interest is the the primary motivation. What needs to happen is that, and what this breakthrough is that it's basically a stepping back. It's like blowing the whistle, and everybody steps back and says, okay, how are we doing? Are we...
You're breaking up the game.
We break up the game. We step out of the game,
Uh-huh.
and we visit together in a collaborative way, and we face problems, each one, and we come to wise unity about what to do. Sounds impossible, doesn't it?
Well, because when you put this in the scope of us as humans playing a game, it is very hard to swallow. Because as a human, I want to believe in my free will. I don't want to believe that I am stuck in Candyland forever and never reaching the end. And it makes it very challenging. All these things should work. I blame it on the others. I do. I blame it on government. I blame it on policy. So it is really interesting. It's hard. I think it's hard to swallow that as a human, because I'm going back to right now, if I were to go back to some of the things on your board, I'm going back to my human nature, my causes. I keep on defaulting to
that it's really human nature, we're screwed.
And I am not a negative, cynical person, but I keep on going back to, why would we operate this way if we weren't designed to operate this way? So what you're going to show me now is we don't have to operate in this way. It is not, we have other aspects of our human nature that are going to come out.
Exactly.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
All right, okay.
If you and I change the context from the box to the circle, we get a whole different new human nature.
We get a whole new human nature, or are we going to tap
into... A different
into...
aspect of human nature, different aspects arise. It's like, to me, it's like the difference between catching somebody in a gymnasium screaming at the referee because their son just got called for the foul.
Sure.
And you pull them out and you put them in a church or in some kind of a reverent zone, and they're not screaming anymore. They're being respectful, we've changed the context, and we get totally different set of behaviors and nature from the people.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing here, is if you and I set up the rules of the game, and of course now the competitors are corporations and institutions mainly, and we're members
which is why we feel so helpless.
We're so helpless, yes.
Because the competitors aren't even us anymore.
They're not even people.
They could be. We're all contributing.
They can,
But these are the two entities are, and then I go back to blaming capitalism. That's my problem.
Well, then you go back to capitalism.
Yeah, so then I'm going back to my cause again. Now I've just switched my cause
Okay, that's
over to
okay.
capitalism.
So if you're causing capitalism, that's cool. But this is about addressing all
Right,
capitalism,
okay.
human nature,
So
the
you're
whole
going to
thing.
take all my causes
That's right.
and you're going to show me now.
Well, that's what this is. That's what we have to do. And I'm going to give you the big picture, and
Okay.
then I'm going to give you
Okay.
the detailed picture.
Got it.
But the big picture is that if we could all call time out and step back and think collectively
Okay.
and
Stop.
creatively, stop with the decision making and think creatively about, owning your emotions and owning your
Sure.
feelings and thinking what would be best for everybody. And we need to find something that works for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different kind of conversation.
It's an entirely different
We
conversation.
don't have that anywhere in our system. Trying to figure out what's best for everybody is not in our system, except in isolated little circles here and there. But our politics doesn't have that, and our economics doesn't have that. Our economics is about driven to the score, which is the bottom line.
Correct.
The profits, and
Correct.
we wave our arms about triple bottom line, but no, it's really the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
And that's economics, and in the governance we have this same kind of assumption that we're all out for ourselves, we're all out for power, and it's a majority rule deal. It's a fight.
It is a fight. I mean, here we are in 2020. We are heading into our next election, and it feels polarized. I mean, there is no other way to describe the bipartisan system that we are living in today, except that no one's going to win.
Well, you said bipartisan, but very partisan you meant.
Oh, well, yeah, sorry, you're right, is what I meant.
Yeah.
Sorry. We are butting heads.
Yeah,
So
and that's
much.
designed. It's unintentionally designed, but that's what when you set up a majority rule kind of setting, then
Majority rules.
yeah, you're going to get a minority that's upset and thinking next time they're going to win and they're going to do whatever they can to win, and you're going to get the majority that tries to get things going
Right.
their way, and we don't have the conversation of let's all visit to figure out what's best for everybody and come to some kind of union. It's a different kind of conversation.
Okay, so tell me
So
what
the
this
founders,
conversation. Yeah.
The box facilitates a kind of conversation that worked for a while when we were in this tragedy of the commons, but there was plenty of resources, plenty of commons. The commons was plenty big enough.
Okay.
So we were independent. So you can have kind of a game when you're independent, but you can't have a game when you're interdependent, a competitive game.
That's very, very big distinguishing factor.
Yes.
Okay.
Because when we're interdependent, now, when you win and it's a lose-lose, we're trashing the planet, or we're destroying our people. You may have won money-wise or something, but none of us would actually choose this.
Right.
And that's where we are. We've turned from a win-win, where the box could be win-win because we had so much commons resource, and now we can't because we actually an overshoot. So we are in a lose-lose. The competition yields lose-lose. So the key is to step back, essentially just like our founders did when they made this transition.
That's true. Yeah.
They stepped back and said, "Hey, what do we do? How do we make this work for everybody?" And they were not interested, even though they were using parliamentary procedure, which was supposedly just the vote. They all got it. We had to have everybody on board. Every state, every delegate, we had to have everybody, every person.
United we stand.
And they pretty much got there in that time. No women, no Native Americans, no blacks, but for the people they were thinking about, and I think beyond, they were aiming for win-win. They were aiming something that could work for everybody. And of course they failed in a lot of ways, but that stepping back is what is missing today.
I got
We today, all of us need to be delegates to the new constitutional convention, which is ongoing, always in play. There's a we the people that's alive today, and it's all of us.
Okay.
So that's the big picture.
Okay.
That's society's
Okay.
breakthrough. And then how do we achieve that? Well, these are, and in this case we're talking globally, We need to do the same thing for the U.S., but we're talking globally. So here's 9 steps
Oh, okay.
to make that happen.
Okay.
And I don't know if I can actually go through all the 9 steps, but it's a wisdom council process.
Okay.
And it's basically, I'll read them.
Okay.
They're gathering a core group of people to
Okay.
be, we don't need everybody. We don't need to sell this idea to everybody. We just need a core group with money and resources and connections. And then what we would choose the issue or have some process to choose the issue. So globally, that would be probably climate change, right, or climate crisis. And then we would randomly select from the global population, and we have some firm that does polling or something. They would do it, and somehow we would gather. We only need like 12 to 16 people.
It's not a jury.
It's not a jury. They're doing a different kind of thinking.
Okay.
The jury is in the system, and it's trying to be deliberative and trying to but it does reach unity, so or unanimous anyway. So, but it's a judgment. You get to choose guilty or innocent. You don't get. This is where we talk in a way that we redefine the whole problem. And say, oh my God, yeah, it's not about climate, it's about the economic system. So, one thing I haven't said is that this is, of course, applies to all kinds of issues.
Yeah, so this is our example issue.
Yeah. So we randomly select just a few people from the global population. And we provide them with dynamic facilitation. So they go into a room for 3 or 4 days and they're dynamically facilitated, which means that they have the kind of conversation that's creative, that's collaborative, where they reach unity at the end.
I see.
On the issue of climate change in some form, and they probably redefine the issue. And then we've done this hundreds of times and it works, and at large scale too. And so, and then we do what it takes to get a face-to-face. I mean, they walk on stage and we have like a community gathering of people from around the world, celebrities, CEOs, whatever. The Wisdom Council presents for just 40 minutes or so. And they tell the story of how they got to unity. And then the audience basically turns their chairs, and we have a broadcast audience. Everybody just talks for a minute about what their reaction is.
Sure.
And the general reaction is usually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we're randomly selecting people, they reach unity, they have a story to tell, and then we can listen to the story, and we're all going, yeah, and often there's a but, we should add this, we should have added that, how come they didn't add this? But they're building, they're not agree-disagree thing.
They're building.
They're building. And then in 4 months or 3 months, we do another random selection, different group. And we help that group see what has happened in the middle. And in the middle, we have we convene maybe responder groups, like the stakeholders and the special interests and whatever can respond.
So you implement this plan.
Yes.
So after it's now in the public, we've all decided, hey, this is not a terrible idea. We've added to it, and now it's a good idea. I'm on board. So implementation occurs, and then 3 months.
We don't have to sell it to everybody.
No, but
if we had $3 million and 5 people, we could do it.
Okay.
I mean, it isn't. In other words, there isn't anything in here that requires anybody's permission. We can just do it.
Okay, so we're taking this unity, and we're applying it, and then 3 months later we come back.
Well, yeah, the unity, we're setting up a whole system conversation.
Okay.
So that when the group walks on stage and presents unity, their unity to this audience, the live audience, and the broadcast audience, and the net audience probably, they go through it just very short. It takes 40 minutes maybe, 35 minutes. They introduce themselves, they tell a little bit about their story of how they got there and what they came up with. And then they're done. And then the audience kind of turns their chairs and talks. So if a group is watching TV in a bar, they might talk, about it. But what we want
I see.
is not only the people say, wow, to the,
Yeah.
this is good, we're all in sync around the results, but we want to shift the conversation too, so that everybody is in the same kind of stepping back and thinking holistically conversation as we the people. Because this becomes a we the people conversation that isn't just reaching unity in that small group, but it's pretty much all of us evolving unity over time on this issue and moving. So this is leadership to the institutions, to the national governments, to the economy.
So it's providing influence, or we're just doing it?
Well, I would say even leadership, it's doing it, because if all of us are in sync about what we're doing, like here's the plan, we're going to take these elements of this and go forward, and we're going to invest money, and we're going to direct the big philanthropic money that Bill Gates has, for instance, or the Gates, Melinda Gates Foundation. Yeah. Okay, here's what needs to happen, and we need resources for it. So my guess is, I think, if we're all on board, and Bill Gates and Melinda and all these other people are all on board together, and the national governments, all of the people, it's like we're stepping back as people and thinking, and then we're stepping back into the role, then all the institutions that are sitting out there have a new direction. So the leadership has come from this conversation of us all. And one of the key things to get in this is that people don't understand really is the difference between decision making, which is exclusively happens in there, and what we are doing, which we call choice creating.
Yeah, those are powerful words. We take decisions, you separate and you cut and you make a decision based on judgment, which is how you clearly described it earlier.
Yes.
Then we go into a new world of choice creation.
Yes.
Which to me sounds powerful. And then we have to move to action, and that's the part that throws
Well, that's the thing, see, because in decision making, you end up with trying to influence the actual decision makers. In other words, we could vote or something, but then there's these decision makers that have the authority. But in choice creating, we're all in one conversation, and it's not, and it's not a majority rule kind of thing. In this world, it is, but in this world, it's unity. So it's all of us, coming to unity about what to do, and we're all in the conversation, so we all have energy for doing it. So there's an energy issue that we're dealing with choice creating. Is we have that, we're working with the energy of people to actually take action.
Okay, so, yeah.
So in other words, when you have a breakthrough and you all go, holy smoke, this is it.
Let's go.
It's better than what I thought before.
Right.
Yeah, let's go do this. How are we going to do this? It's like, it goes like that.
Right. We talk about that from charismatic leader perspective. If we look at movements,
yes,
there is a unity behind the movement or the leader of the movement. And have they at this point reached choice creation? Is that what?
Well, no, it doesn't. It normally just doesn't happen. Choice creating. The only time choice creating happens, generally,
okay,
at least at large scale, is when there's a crisis.
True. Yeah. No, they're right.
And it's when things fall.
You're not going to wait.
apart,
Yeah.
Then everybody can work together, and we all know what we need to do, and it all works out. And so a lot of people are waiting here for a crisis.
Well, we seem
Thinking,
to have a lot.
well, when the crisis comes, then we'll all work together,
Oh.
But we're having a strategy that actually uses that same thinking process in a constructive way earlier, so that we can get doing it and have a way to make sure it works and use it.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm thinking.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. So anyway, I don't know if I finished these. Let's see.
Yeah.
So we want to provide for remote asynchronous gatherings, so it's on the web, and then people can just sign up. You can't do it at one time because it's the middle of the night for the other side of the world. So it has to be asynchronous. But then, and then you provide for an ongoing, we want a whole system, global conversation to happen, and we want it to be in the spirit of choice creating for this we the people moment. And we can do that. We can set that up. And part of the way we do that is through the Wisdom Council, or the random selection, the dynamic facilitation of that group. And then we set up the questions, and we help the group tell the story of their progress.
Right.
And that helps carry the same spirit to the larger system, to the global system.
Right, right.
And then out of this, when the group does their choice grading process in the small group, there's a clarity that happens about the issue. We know that will happen. There will be shifts when people go, oh yeah, this is really important. Like, you know, one of the shifts we had in Asheville, North Carolina was our social contract is broken. Our social contract is broken.
Our social contract is broken. What's the context?
Well, I mean, that we had a random group in North, I guess it was called Bonneman County,
Okay.
Near Asheville, North Carolina. We did a Wisdom Council example. It wasn't a process, but and we randomly selected a few people. I forget, it was like 8 or 9 people maybe, and they were working on the issue. I forget what it was. Something about leaping ahead into the next millennium or something, you know, or becoming. What do we need to do to leap ahead? I forget what it was actually. But their big breakthrough, or their big realization, joint realization, was our old social contract is broken, and we need to act to be recognizing that and act now with new understandings.
They came together, from what I'm hearing you say, to discuss issues within the governance of the county. Not really knowing there was an issue, but not having defined the issue.
Yes.
And when they stepped out of, and they actually came together, different, diverse group of human beings came together, they decided that their social contract was broken.
Yes.
That was the problem in their current county.
They redefined the problem. That's right.
They redefined the problem, which is really important. So they put
Yeah.
a different, but it's important to me, I think, over time, is to develop these really strong narratives surrounding it.
Examples, yeah.
Yeah, very strong narratives, because this is a very new idea, and we are creatures who are triggered by stories.
Yes, well, that's good. I mean, I think one of the, just briefly, one of the big ones was the Syrian refugees.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
In
Yeah.
Austria, and I wasn't there, but I know about it, and that the Wisdom Council basically went up and down and all around about it, and they basically came to the place of we are a compassionate people. We need to be compassionate in this. And yes, we need to protect our culture, and we need to have limits and so forth, but we need to help these people.
Oh, wow. Very
to
open.
the extent that we can. And the politicians made statements like, nobody here could have said that. There was no politician that could have said that as a
Wow.
priority. And another one said, this is wind at my back.
Wow.
You know, so it's like the Wisdom Council process can come to the conclusion that's clearly obvious, but we're all wrapped up in the system, so we can't go there. But as soon as we step back, we can kind of remember our values and act more, more thoughtfully and consciously and of course they built in protections, but
Yeah, they built boundaries. I mean, we all, as humans, we need boundaries.
right. So, so we provide for the ongoing global conversation, provide for responder meetings like stakeholders, and then we support. One of the things that happens
Sure.
is that the Wisdom Council almost always says something like, "Hey, we need to keep doing this. We need to have more."
Right.
Which is really saying there's a we the people being created here, and we want to keep that we the people alive. We want to keep doing the we the people part.
Right.
And if they do that, of course, that's a new system. if there's an ongoing we the people in the system, we have a different system of governance and we have a different system of economics.
I see.
Because governance is about providing leadership from the people. And that's to the media, to the elected officials, to the corporate institutions, all of it. Because this is what we're going to buy, this is how we're going to work, this is what we're trying to do. So it changes everything to add the choice-creating conversation, which is, it's only normal that we stop living inside somebody else's design. In the 18th century, we live inside their design for how we're supposed to think and talk and be, and and make decisions.
Yeah.
But it's only obvious that we would want to step out occasionally and figure out who we really are today.
Yeah.
And to redefine our institutions, and if we could get there, and to get clarity on the issues, and to create a shared vision, and to have this global we, and of course national we, if we do it in a national we, and that's redefining the system. Now we have this ongoing we the people that can design an institution of global governance that makes sense today in the 21st century. And this isn't a nice to have, this is terminal, cannot work.
Right.
We are going to self-destruct not only for the environment, but for ourselves. This kind of stepping out has to happen. It's not an option. We have to bring consciousness to what we're doing collectively.
Yeah.
And here is a way to do that.
Yeah.
It's proven, it's accessible, we just need to get a few people turned on with enough money and connections and resources, we can make this happen.
What's interesting, what really struck me is you're right, this system has been in process and being created for the last 250 years-ish. We didn't even have televisions. We didn't have cell phones.
Yeah.
We had nothing.
We didn't have roads.
We had a plow.
We didn't have bathrooms.
No, right. I know. To think of my father, who grew up in the 1950s, who still had outdoor plumbing as their option for a bathroom. It seems like here we are living in a really outmoded way to think as a culture, and it is time for change.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we don't have to get everybody's buy-in and do this. We just start the conversation.
Sure.
And people join in because it's going to be fun and interesting and important and meaningful.
Well, everyone wants their voice to be heard.
Yes.
And when you do random selection like that sounds very powerful to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a lot of things to say.
Okay. Now, let me say one more thing,
Please.
kind of bringing the end to this. This is about transforming this system, which means transforming human nature, capitalism, and how we do greenhouse gases, and releasing the blocks so that these solutions, which are wonderful, can start to actually have their impact.
Yeah, those solutions, that's the thing. I'm really frustrated because I look at those solutions and I'm like,
they're great. It's just that they're blocked.
Like I have no way to implement them.
Yes.
Because it's only me.
Yes.
And then I hear that, well, no matter what I recycle, it's going to go in the ocean anyway. Yeah. So I hear you. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a way to get that coherence to plan so that we can make this stuff happen. There's a we that can do it. We can't just say we need to. There's a we that can figure out what we actually need to do.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to say is that the kind of thinking, choice creating, was originally discovered, if you will, if I can say.
I think that's a good word.
It's been originally discovered as a way to solve impossible to solve problems. In other words, this kind of thinking is all about solving possible problems that are possible to solve. And if we have one that's impossible, we throw it out. Why? Because this uses only judgment. So if you have something that's impossible, you just say, oh, we can't do anything about that. Let's just pick a really important one from the ones we can do stuff about.
I hear you. Yeah.
And so that's because of our limited thinking.
It's true. It's true.
But we actually have creativity inside us. And it's embedded in a web of emotions and feelings and intuitions, which when we use creativity in the box, we use something called brainstorming, which doesn't have that web of emotions and feelings and stuff. It's just off the top of the head stuff.
Right.
And you don't redefine the problem, you just stay with the old problem. So they incorporate creativity, but it stays in a very limited way.
Correct.
It doesn't really influence, it doesn't really solve impossible to solve problems, it just solves good marketing issues. That's really what it was for, marketing.
Yeah.
But there is this creative capacity in people that we need to release, that's been lost. And this is about achieving breakthrough solutions that nobody's thought of before, that we haven't even thought of, that are collective breakthroughs, not individual. We got lots of individual insights and breakthroughs, and often they're blocked for many years. But if they have marketability, of course, then they can take off. But this is about we're in collective problems. We need collective breakthroughs, and that's what this is about. I mean, that's one of the outcomes that I can't foresee, but I know will be there.
Right. Interesting. So using all parts of our humanity, all parts of our brains, our emotions, instead of just cutting off. You're right, we have cut out.
We've cut it out.
We've cut out creativity and emotions as a part of our humanness.
This wasn't bad. This was a great leap forward because it was getting us out of the whole authoritarian regime.
Sure.
And so we went to the Enlightenment, and we went to being more rational and looking at what's truth and what's not truth, and what science is doing science to tell us what is accurate. And so it was a huge leap forward. And then we designed a political system to try and mimic that. And that's great. It was a great leap forward. But now it can't work. It's breaking down, and it's causing us to destroy ourselves and our people, and we're all embedded in a system that's doing that.
Right.
How do we get out of that?
Yeah.
How do we get back to our humanity, which we had kind of like in the tribal day? And so, I'll really say one more thing about this, and that is that there is no identifiable risk to doing this. We are not getting rid of anything in the box. The Constitution's there, all the institutions are there, the corporations are there, everything's there. At one level, this is just randomly selecting people, they give a speech, they go away. And then we randomly select another group, they give a speech, they go away. And randomly select another, they give a... But obviously it would change everything, because it actually is about facilitating that process, facilitating all of us to get involved in a new way, to start thinking and talking in a new way, and in a choice-creating way, in a creative, collaborative way, heartfelt.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I can see that. It's
So
very.
there's no risk to this, and it's something we can just do, and it's very fast. We can do this within 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
So this is a tremendously good news prospect.
It's a good news prospect. Yeah.
And so many people are stuck down here in one of these corners. Because they're depressed. They don't know where to go. There's nothing we can do. Blah blah blah.
It's true.
But
it's true. They are stuck. I'm stuck. I live there. I live in that box. You know, I'm a creative person. I want to live outside that box, but I'm held in by the box.
Cool.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Jim. That was awesome.